Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. It's great to see you. This is a reading for Sagittarius sun signs, or if you have any specific Sagittarius placements in your chart and are needing a masculine energy to work with or balance within yourself. So Sagittarius, this reading has been such a struggle to get to, just leading up to it, and I feel like that's entirely my own resistance to the subject matter of this reading, and also because I feel like the reading was supposed to come through this new deck that I got. It's called the Literary Tarot. My sister bought it for me. My little sister bought this for me because she knows how much I love both of these two things. But the thing about this deck, I was so excited to get it. But when I opened it up, it was just because it's using sort of literary classic stories, right? So very classics, books, things like Jane Austen, but also a lot of darker stories. And so because the inspiration of this deck draws from so much sort of dark inspiration, a lot of the messages in this deck is also focused on that. And so I was finding it really difficult to pull in the messages from this deck. It was just difficult. And I feel like that's part of your reading, that I feel like you are, it's like this is the focus of your reading. And I will get into what that is, but we're going to talk about the overall context. We have here the ocean, the comic, apocalypsis, and then these really lovely energies, the kiss, the offering, and the storm. Because I feel like Sagittarius, you're dealing with somebody, right? This kiss card, so it doesn't have to be romantic, but it kind of feels like there is that vibe in this reading today. The kiss card, which has been coming out a lot recently, and the storm and the offering, because it's kind of feeling like all of this heightened electricity is what this card comes through with, in order to bring two energies together, right? So it could be you and another person. It could be you and an opportunity or whatever it is. There's all of this sort of heightened electricity, right? A lot of external energies trying to bring these two energies together. And I feel like you, Sagittarius, are this energy, the offering here. Because I was getting, just before preparing for this reading, holding out your hand, right? It was kind of feeling waiting for a bird to land on your hand, right? And so trying your best to remain completely still, right? Just completely calm, surrounding yourself in this energy of calm as this bird sort of circles and gets closer. That's what's feeling that's what this reading feels like. But in the process, it's whatever this person, I'm going to just read it as a person, but it doesn't have to be. So just fit it into your life however you see fit, if it's a person or an opportunity. But it's kind of this person here, they're coming out here with the threshold card, which I love this card so much. This is probably my favorite card in this deck. I mean, I say that about all the cards, but it's because it's such a clear message, right? This is the bird, or the energy of something is so close. They're on the threshold of and about to step through it, I want to say. And I feel like you are here offering your hand. It could be, Sagittarius, that the story's flipped as well, so always keep that in mind for a general reading. Just fit yourself however you see fit. I'm just reading it as how the message is coming through to me, because I asked who is Sagittarius in this story, and you came out here with the shaman, right, which is the open hand, right, trying to invite this one to step through this threshold, whatever that is. And it's coming through with this the space card, right, because with the shaman card, it just looks like outer space, right? So it's almost like you're inviting somebody, because how it's kind of coming through is astronauts on a spacewalk, right? There's you're inviting somebody to step out of like their safety or comfort zone perhaps, and like take a step out into like do a space walk with them, right? Something like so perhaps mystical because of the shaman energy. It could be something like very spiritual, like maybe you're asking them to like meditate with you or something like that. Like some sort of practice that bridges the physical and the spiritual realms together, right? And I feel like you are very practiced at that, Sagittarius. You've done some sort of like perhaps shaman work, or like it doesn't have to be shaman. It's just feeling like some sort of spiritual link between like your physical reality and your spiritual practice, for example. And it's like there's somebody here who's so like ready to make this leap, right? But it's kind of just like they're circling. They're not quite sure yet, because the next card is that well, the next two cards that came out here are the caution and the movement. So there is movement. There is movement. That's what's so lovely about this reading. They're on the threshold, right? They're in your space, right? They're around you, but they're cautious, extremely cautious. And I feel like you perhaps as well are cautious, right? Because it's like you're trying to stay still, trying not to make any movements, trying not to like pull on them, right? Like giving them space and time to sort of become more comfortable with the idea, maybe, or something like that. But it's so lovely. These cards coming out, you have the heart and the thread, right? Which is just like all of this like heart energy is pulling them forward, because there's so much love in this connection. Whatever this connection is, it's just feeling so lovely. But I love these cards, right? I love these cards because it's like, I feel like this is this thread card, because it always talks to me about like pulling something in, right? So it's like you're trying to pull them closer by connecting to their heart, right? Like connecting to like just love energy, right? Just wanting to like pull them closer. And it's like they are arriving, right? They're being very cautious. I feel like what the cards are trying to explain, the tarot cards, which I will get into, is like what they're having to step through in order to, like, this could be like a fear threshold. It's feeling kind of like they're experiencing some sort of anxiety, because the thing about fears is that they're very specific, right? Fears are so specific and fine-tuned to us as individuals, right? So no, like two people, if you have two people, they're like each person, it's like fears are entirely unique to you as an individual. It's kind of what I'm trying to say, that no two people have the same fear. It's very specific to each person and their experiences and all that. So it's kind of like you're trying to pull them through some sort of fear threshold, but it's like it's not your fear. It's something that they are afraid of that you have no problems with, is kind of how it's feeling, right? So it's kind of like you're trying to get them perhaps to be brave in addressing whatever this fear is, but it's like it's very specific to who they are as a person. It was coming through with this story, especially with the cards coming out, which I will go through, of in Harry Potter in the last book when Ron, who's Harry Potter's best friend, he comes back because he left at some point, right? Like they were just not getting along. There was conflict. So he left because it became too much for him. And then he comes back, right? In order to help Harry destroy the Horcruxes and that kind of thing. But in this challenge, when Ron comes back, he still has to address the fear, right? Because the thing about the Horcruxes, which is kind of just like the seed of fear tells you exactly the thing that you are the most afraid of. And I feel like that's what they're having to face. They're having to face something that is like their biggest fear around perhaps this situation, right? So it could be in regards to love or like past relationships or something like that. Especially if it's somebody that you're trying to be in a relationship with. It's like that they have perhaps a fear about a past relationship that they're still having to like work through or step through the fear of it. So in that story in Harry Potter, like Ron's fear, I guess his biggest fear was kind of being like the third wheel, right? Like imagining that Harry and Hermione, for instance, were having a relationship, that kind of thing. That was his biggest fear for him. And so when he was trying to destroy or like step through this threshold, he saw the image, right? It was so, because the thing about fear is that it seems so real. It seems so, it feels just like a punch to the gut, right? Like it feels like that. And this is the cards that are explaining this are just so clear to me, but it's like, it's very heavy, Sagittarius, because I feel like for you're on the other side of this, right? It's like you're perhaps trying to understand why it is they haven't stepped through yet, because for you, this fear is not real for you, is kind of how it's feeling. This is not a thing that for you, perhaps that you don't have the specific fear. So for you, it's kind of like, I don't see what the issue is, but for them, it feels so real. That's what this is talking about. This is, it's the 9 of ink. I think this is the sword. So the 9 of swords, which is talking about so much anxiety, right? But the thing about anxiety is that it lies to you. This is how, like, I used to struggle so much with anxiety. So much, like, things like telling myself completely false narratives because that came from fear, right? That came from, like, my subconscious, like, just, like, totally out there, really almost like other people, if they knew what I was thinking, they'd be like, where did you even come up with that story? That's what this is talking about. And that's what fear does. It feeds on very specific issues that perhaps we have, or woundings, I want to say. Fear feeds off woundings, right? Like the areas in our lives where we've experienced pain, and it's like fear is the thing that perpetuates the wounding or perpetuates the pain in order to keep us there, right? In order to keep us from stepping through a potentially expansive opportunity, right? And it's like you have to first like heal or cleanse those stories, right? Like heal the wound, heal the whatever, the pain. And that's when fear sort of loses its power, right? When you heal the wounding, it loses the ability to control you. That's what this is talking about. So I feel like that's what they're working through, which is very good news. But again, here with the 8 of light and the page of light, so I feel like this is the cups, right? It's like but this is what they're seeing. So ignore the traditional meaning of the cards. Just look at the imagery. It's like they're peeking into, this is them on the threshold, right? They're peeking into some sort of reflecting pool of some sort, right? But what's being reflected back at them is fear. Is all of this sort of like, this is Ron experiencing the vision of like the Horcrux, the locket, sort of like showing him the thing he's most afraid of, right? That's what this is talking about. And it's like that, it's like the only way to defeat it is to tell yourself that this is not real, right? That this fear aspect is not real, because that's the one thing that's keeping them behind the threshold, right? It's like they're here imagining some sort of fear that is keeping them from stepping through, because, and I feel like this fear is specific to whatever their wounding was in the past, right? So if it's a relationship, it kind of feels like there's perhaps a fear around like being a third party or something like that. It could be, or like something like that. It doesn't have to be that exactly. That's just what's coming through with the image in these cards. But anyways, the next card to come out, which is just so fascinating to me. Like, this is why this deck wanted to be used, because, and why the message took so long to get here, because I wasn't ready to use this deck. But we have here the Four of Parchment, which is a Christmas Carol story. Ghosts of present, past, present, past, and yet to come, right? So it's like seeing all these ghosts, right? Past, the past energy, things that caused wounding in the past. Present, what's happening around them right now, right? Their situation right now. Whatever that is, the people who are surrounding them perhaps, or like perhaps just like a recent experience that led them to where they are, right? Or whatever it is that they're currently dealing with. And then the yet to come, which I believe in this story is talking about, like, if they continue on this path, if they continue the way that they're listening to their fear, what is yet to come for that? And the thing about this story is that the reason why they're being shown all of these ghosts, right? The ghosts of past, present, and future, is in order to change the future. Because what perhaps they're seeing is what will happen if they don't change, or if they don't step through the threshold, right? Because it doesn't feel like change necessarily. Like, I feel like they don't have to necessarily change, but it's more so like they have to step through some sort of threshold in order to, especially if they're seeing something in the future that is not favorable, that's not fun, or not fun, but it's not something that they want, right? They don't want to end up in like whatever it is that they're seeing here. And I feel like that, so perhaps going through this energy of like experiencing all the ghosts, right? Experiencing all the ghosts. It's so funny that that this card came out today. I feel like this is a really significant card in this deck. So I also saw the words Saint Timothy this morning. So random, but like little Tim, right? Little Tim with his like, who's the one who causes all of this change. Anyways, but it feels like Sagittarius, that they are moving forward, right? Cautiously, right? Very cautiously, because it's kind of feeling like there is momentum forward, moving them towards the direction, because it's like they want this too, right? They want their heart is being activated, is kind of how it's feeling, especially with these three cards coming out next. So you have here the box, and then you have the disruption and the love card, which is so lovely, because it's like all of this love is coming in to help pull them through this threshold. And it's kind of like here, what I was really noticing with this box is, like, if you notice here, it's kind of bringing in this energy of like an optical illusion, because it's kind of like here, if you look at the way that the lines are drawn, they're just squares, right? The lines are just going in these four directions, but because of the way our eyes work and the way that like we tend to fill in information that's not there, I feel like that's what this is talking about. That if you look, it kind of looks like there are lines going this way, right? But if you actually look at how it's drawn, there's no line there that's connecting it. That's just how our mind or how our eyes process information, is that there's like lines being drawn here, when in reality there is no line, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to explain here with the disruption, that there's like, I feel like perhaps it could be both messages. It's like they're reading between the lines in a way that validates fear, or they can also read between the lines in a way that emphasizes the love, right? There's two different kind of ways in which they can look at the situation. That there's an illusion, I want to say, that is being caused by fear that keeps them contained within the box, right? But there are also illusions, I want to say in quotation marks, or different ways of reading between the lines that allows you to see the love of a situation, right? Or the heart-based energy, right? That if we just go back to that story of Ron being sort of activated or triggered by the idea of Harry and Hermione in a relationship, for example. I have no idea why it's coming through this way. I'm just going with it. Where it's like at the end of the or like what sort of helps get him through this is kind of like the idea of like, well, he cares about both of them so much, right? That like why sort of jeopardize the full potential of what this is, or the bigger idea, or the more love energy, because it's kind of like, even if that fear was true, even if like Harry and Hermione, for example, were in a relationship, in validating his fear and staying inside this box, he would lose both, is kind of how it's feeling, right? Like, if they were in a relationship, he would lose both. But if he sort of stepped through that threshold of, like, perhaps being okay with it, right? Like, perhaps being not necessarily okay with it, but it's like, if that were true, if that fear was true, how are you going to respond? Because in the end, if that were true, he could either lose both of his best friends, or he could be okay, like he could still have both best friends, but just lose some aspect. I don't know where, I feel like I'm going too far with that, but it's what I feel like this is talking about is that there's illusions on both sides, right? But it kind of feels like the truth of the situation is love, but the love is being, I don't know, it's almost like being covered, because what would you do if you lost that love is kind of what's coming through here. And perhaps that's sort of a fear that they're dealing with. It's like here with the next card coming out, the Knight of Quills. This deck is just so intense, because this is the story of Oedipus Rex, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with. Like, peak betrayal, peak like not being able to see, right? Like, he like tears out his own eyes because he doesn't want to see the pain of this situation. But I feel like this is the illusion, because, or it's like they need to get to this point. They need to almost like get to this point to like realize that it's not true, because the next card coming out here is this High Priestess card, right? It's like they're coming to you is kind of how it's feeling, like stepping through the threshold, because it's either that they lose everything or they lose you, perhaps. It's like kind of like, it's almost like they're being, okay, this is what it's kind of feeling like. They're being forced to make a decision between losing everything or just losing one thing that they really care about. And it's like, the reality is that they don't even have to lose anything, but they have to address the fear of it, the fear of losing perhaps the thing that they care about most, in order to understand their true wounding or their true self or whatever. It's like they have to go through the worst possible losing everything kind of energy, right? Not in reality. This is all the Nine of Swords. This is all the Nine of Swords. It's not even happening in the reality, but it's what they're imagining is kind of how it's feeling like. They're imagining losing everything. What happens if I lose everything that I care about? Or if I just lose this one thing that I really, really like, the most important, the most, whatever this is, the most treasured kind of energy. Oh my gosh, it's getting so intense, but I feel like this is not, this energy, whatever this is not the truth, right? This is the illusion. This is sort of like the the filling in, the reading between the lines in a way that's emphasizing fear or emphasizing or validating the fear, keeping them stuck within a box, when it's like, if they're willing to take a step out of that, they would see you, Sagittarius, just sitting there, right? Like waiting for them. And the next cards you have here are the Two of Quills and the Seven of Quills. So a lot of swords energy in this reading today. A lot of swords. Okay, anyways, so this is talking, both of these cards came out with the message of like, there's something that's not being said, or there's information that's hidden. I feel like that's what this is talking about, the box, that I feel like perhaps on both sides, or on perhaps just on their side, it's like there's information being hidden, and it's kind of like they're perhaps like, perhaps it's like they're not telling you what they're afraid of, or they're not communicating what it is that they are fearful of, or something, or perhaps like the past wounding or whatever. And it's kind of like, if they were, it's putting you or the situation in a stalemate is kind of how it's coming through, because there's this energy of like a stalemate or an indecision because of what's not being said. And it's like, if they were to express what they are afraid of, it would be like, you would be able to like console them almost and be like, that's not true at all, right? Like, that's what I'm seeing here. It's like they're coming to you with like so much, like, I'm feeling like this is a past energy where it's like they're some sort of very specific wounding that they had in a past relationship or whatever has caused them to react out of fear. And it's like the fear cycle, but I feel like it's like they are moving forward. They are coming towards you. They are realizing that this is not true of the current reality right now. It might have been true in the past, or in their past, I want to say. Something really horrible perhaps happened to them in the past, or in a past relationship. And it's kind of like what you are representing is kind of like the energy that's trying to pull them out of this, because it's like it's a box, meaning it's not, it's contained, there's no expansion here. It's kind of just like they're just, because this kind of looks like a maze as well, right? They're just like continuing to run the same cycles over and over again. In order to stop that, they have to like step out and seek something different, or see the way that the lines are drawn, or read between the lines in a way that emphasizes the love and not the fear illusion, is what this is coming through as. Okay, Sagittarius, that was so much. This energy is so intense. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go the extended. The link is in the description box below. If you're interested in a personal reading, my website's also down below. If this message resonated with you, please consider liking, subscribing, or leaving a comment. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.